Well, what a brand new intro countdown. I kind of really like that.
I loved it. That was awesome.
Great. I'm just playing with the options that we have here on our beautiful, great platform on StreamYard, and I just came across that for the first time today.
Well, I
But
definitely think that we should make it part of the show. That's awesome.
I think we should make
Well,
that a part of every show.
every show. Yeah. That's awesome. It's a new game changer thing. It is a game
But more
changer.
importantly, it's a game changer, but more importantly,
right.
we're here to talk about basketball right now.
Yes. Hunter is going to be joining us soon. I know that y'all have not seen us together in it feels like a month now, but it's only been 2 episodes. But he is going to be joining us soon. Today, I guess we should jump right in to NBA Finals. The Lakers are up 3-1 as predicted. I mean, we've pretty much both said Lakers in 5. So, what do you think's going to happen?
I mean, there's no. As much as I hate to say it, the Heat team isn't built to beat a team like the Lakers.
Yeah.
Getting through the Celtics was easy because the Celtics don't play defense.
I read something earlier, and I want to know what your thoughts are on it. Do you think that it makes a difference if LeBron wins, or the Lakers, not just LeBron, but if he gets another ring with a team that is not built to beat the Lakers? It's they called it the softest era of basketball right now.
Okay, so the only reason Miami happened is because LeBron couldn't get past the super built Celtics, who of this generation were the first super team.
Mm-hmm.
And the Ray Allen, the Kevin Garnett, the Paul Pierce is the exact team I'm talking about. He couldn't get past them. So he went to Miami, joined Dwayne Wade, recruited Chris Bosh over, and created his own Super 3.
Mm-hmm.
And now a lot of people say, well, LeBron can't win without another superstar. Okay. Can you name anybody that's won a championship, with the exception of the Dallas Mavericks and Dirk Nowitzki, that had less than 2 superstars?
No.
Maybe the Detroit Pistons back in 2002.
I can't name any for sure. I don't know of any of that. No. I mean,
Jordan had Pippen.
Yeah. But especially in this era where all you see are super teams. The Warriors had 4 superstars on the team when they won. So I mean, yeah, I don't think it necessarily takes away from it, but as I always say, I am not on the. He's coming.
I believe she knows.
Yeah.
Of all people that watch this show, she knows exactly where Hunter is.
I think he's having technical difficulties now. He was.
I did see him pop up, so I think he's at home now. But he popped up and popped out, so
he's saying
he will be here.
The camera work, but we'll get him here eventually.
We'll get there when we get there, but he will be here. Don't you worry, he will be here.
So I did write down some good things about LeBron. It's really hard for me to say good stuff about him because I lost all of my respect for him last year.
Last year. Oh, wow. Not even in game 3.
No. Because what you're upset about happened last year. And I don't know. Ooh. It's like no one else remembers it. But the clock was still going. And there he is walking back to the locker room. And I don't know why it bothered me so much, but it did. I hated him from that moment on, and I've been talking crap about him ever since. I have a hard time saying nice things about him, but I did write down a whole bunch of playoff facts about him. I guess I can tell y'all.
Before let's dive straight into this game 3 issue that apparently happened last year. Before we get to anything nice about LeBron James.
Okay, I'm down for that.
So, in any sport, the ultimate show of disrespect is to walk off early without being ejected, mind you. Because obviously if you're ejected, you don't get the choice. In football, how often do you see a player go to the locker room, with the exception of at the end of the game or at the end of the half, They need the ball. They run the ball. They're just running out the clock. We all know everybody's heading to the locker rooms.
Right.
In baseball, how many people go to the
disrespectful?
Exactly. And baseball, how many people just go to the clubhouse in the middle of the game?
Because it's basically like he's saying, F this game. I'll be back next time and beat you then. I don't care. Which that may be the case, but the arrogance behind it rubs me wrong. I don't like it. And
LeBron is so self-centered that he couldn't handle a single loss to the Miami Heat, who fought and clawed their way to even just be there. And so he had to walk off with 10 seconds to go.
About that, he was trash talking Jimmy Butler during that game and everything. And Butler, oh my God, he came back. He was missing 2 starters that game. He was missing Bam. I can't ever say his last name, and I don't know if you know this, but I'm a horrible mispronouncer of names on this show. I mispronounce everyone's names. But Adebayo, he was injured, and Goran Dragic. He was injured too. And so yeah, he ended up playing 45 minutes straight through that game. Not straight, but 45 minutes of the game. When normally during the regular season, I think he plays like 31. And he ended up getting 40-point triple-double. And I feel like that alone was disrespectful to walk off whenever the player on the other team is going so hard, just as like colleagues. It's disrespectful, the whole thing. I don't know.
LeBron. So I've always hated LeBron just for the sake of I'm Boston. Yeah. So of course LeBron James, no, he literally played the crybaby game until he went to the Heat. Mm-hmm. So that's always stuck in my mind. But what really, really cemented it was earlier this year when reports came out after their big meeting that he felt like he was above the rest of the players in the league, and it really rubbed the younger players the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're not going to get into the details about that meeting, but the fact that he would even walk out on the rest of the players, all because he did not agree with what they wanted to do, which is keep playing. Mm-hmm. LeBron and the Lakers, and I think it was the Clippers, were the only 2 teams that wanted to stop playing. Why would the league shut down?
And I mean, not to mention if those 2 teams stopped playing, they were first and second seed at the time. They weren't really worried about their playoff positions or how they were going to advance, But that was, I think, what was that, after the first round of playoffs? Or no, that was maybe even right before playoffs.
It was right in the middle of the first round.
The first round? Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, they weren't worried about their series, They're playing the 8th seed team, the 7th seed team.
Can we just talk about how the NBA playoffs need to be reformatted? Mm-hmm. We came the closest we've ever come this year, and I'm going to blame it all on COVID, to a number 8 seed beating a 1 seed, and what they win? 2 games?
Mm-hmm. I loved the play-in that they did, and I do think that they're going to keep doing that. I read that they're going to continue that on to next season, which I thought was just awesome. If they're that close and everything, then I think that brought a lot of I hope there's a lot of things that come from the bubble, actually. I wish that this could be a every year thing. Every year they go to a bubble and it's just basketball that you're seeing. You're not seeing all of the rest of it, but I definitely want to go to playoff games at some point. So hopefully it's not always in a bubble, but I thought this year was.
We have some big news real quick. He fixed his camera. He's here. Ladies and gentlemen.
I didn't fix my camera. I'm on my phone.
Okay, he didn't fix his camera. But yeah, I'm going to bow out now. I did good for 11 minutes of NBA talk.
Thank you.
My best.
Appreciate it, Jake. Yeah, it's not a behind the basket if there's not at least one technical issue per month. So
for sure. What's up? It's been forever.
I know. We keep playing behind the basket phone tag. So
yeah.
Good to finally be back together. It's weird to be on my phone. I'll be a little shakier, and Hope the audio's fine, but
Yeah, we can hear you actually really good. It's actually better
good.
on the phone.
Interesting. I was worried that like there might be some.
Yeah, this is the best audio you've had since like we started this show.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I have to do phone more often. I was just afraid like that maybe there'd be some like echoing because I don't have headphones.
Mm-mm.
Cool.
It's decent. Okay, so we were talking about the Lakers and the Heat. What are your thoughts on the whole situation right now?
It's not just disrespectful to the other team, but turn your back on your teammates. I'm assuming that this is talking about LeBron James.
Yep. We had a
walking
good
off the
little
court.
hate session where we let it all out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a LeBron James fan by any means, and I do think people probably took it a little too far. You know, people will look for any reason to tear that man down. But personally, I'm not a fan of that kind of attitude.
Well, that's what Jake, it happened last year. Whenever, like when the whole Lakers melted down and there was trade talks out of nowhere, and the whole the whole team basically ended up getting traded. Right before that, he did the same thing, and that's when I started hating him. I don't like it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one thing in the heat of the moment when you're super angry about a finals loss to not want to talk to the other team because you think you might say or do something stupid. But the fact that there was still time on the clock and he started walking off the court before the buzzer sounded is just, I don't know.
A little childish.
Yeah, you know, he kind of has the attitude where he thinks he can get away with anything, and he kind of can.
He can, yeah.
He's very important to the league. Love him or hate him, he brings in a lot of viewers. He brings in a lot of revenue, a lot of talking points, because even the people who hate LeBron the most can't stop talking about him. So, like, we're going to hear about him for a long time until he retires and maybe even after that. But
I'm definitely one of those people.
Yeah, well, it's that game's over, but then Lakers, it was a very, very competitive game 4, but unfortunately, I mean, we're both rooting for the Heat. I'm just surprised and impressed by the Jimmy Butler Game 3 performance.
Yes.
To avoid the sweep, to keep the Heat in contention, a 40-point triple-double with great shooting splits. And it was a very historic performance. He's one of now 3 players in NBA history to have a 40-point triple-double in the finals, joining LeBron James and the logo Jerry West. So very, very impressive. So I was loving that performance, and I'm hoping the Heat can put together some more games like that.
On Friday.
Think at this point, yeah, I think Lakers still have it in the bag. It's so hard to come back from a 3-1 deficit. It's only been done once. Hunter Meinegang. It was done by LeBron James, who was on the team that is up 3-1. Teams don't blow those kinds of leads early, especially a team as good as this year's Lakers. I really hope we can get a game 6. I'm not hopeful for a game 7, but I mean, we'll just have to see. I'd love Jimmy Butler to prove everyone wrong.
I would love it too. But I was telling Jake, I wrote some nice things down about LeBron. It took a lot for me to write all this. So I'm going to read those off now. This is his playoff resume. He is second in playoff games played with 258 games. He has missed 0 games. He is first in minutes played at some nice words. He's first in minutes played at 10,728. He's first in points scored at 7,423. Second in assists at 1,854. And his closeout win percentage is 79.2%. And he's first there. So, I mean, as much as I can go on and on about how much I dislike the guy and everything, you have to give credit where credit's due. And I mean, it's history in the making every time he's playing a game, you know?
Absolutely. And I think what a lot of people, and if I personally jump in on this, the biggest problem a lot of people have with LeBron is kind of the attitude that he has on the court. He's known for complaining to the refs a lot for calls and being a little more extravagant about it than other players. Kind of pulls the superstar card out a lot. But at the end of the day, he is an incredible basketball player. His longevity is unrivaled. He was a star the moment he stepped into the league in 2003. And even in year 17 for him in the NBA, something like that. And he's leading a finals team. He's still putting up all-star numbers. So you got to give credit where credit's due. And you think that longevity is part of why he got those records. But there have been some people in the league for a long time who aren't even touching what LeBron has done. And the people that he's beating out for these records, there's so many playoff greats like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He has so many, Magic Johnson. Even Michael Jordan. These are records that no matter who beats them, they deserve a lot of praise, I guess, for
clout.
that kind of accomplishment. A lot of clout, yeah.
I know that one of the things you wanted to talk about was how many seasons we have left with him. What do you think? I actually think that we still have a while with LeBron. At least a good 4 years, at least. Because I don't see him. I mean, he's got the groin injury that comes and goes, but it's not slowing him down any. Not right now, at least. So what do you think?
Yeah, well, there has been, I don't know if he said this. I want to say he did, and I should have looked it up, but he expressed, as far as I'm aware, some interest in perhaps playing with his son, Bronny James, when he hopefully qualifies for the NBA. I think he's 16 now. And if he joins the G League or is a one-and-done college guy, that's only like 3, maybe 4 more years that LeBron has to be in the league to play with his son. And we've had players, pushing 20 seasons, which is what that would be for LeBron. And what sets LeBron apart from other players who retired after 20 seasons. I think Dirk and Vince Carter are the most recent who have been somewhere around there. I don't know how close they got to 20 or if they surpassed it. Is LeBron hasn't shown a ton of signs of slowing down as these other guys have.
Right.
After 17 years in the league, guys like Dirk and Vince Carter, they slowed down a lot, and they stopped being superstars. They started being like veteran leaders coming off the bench and just kind of guiding their team. LeBron is still starting, and he's getting he did say that. Okay, so he wants to play with Bronny.
Andrew Frank?
He will retire the same year Tom Brady retires football, which maybe never. The other thing is LeBron James spends a ridiculous amount of money on his body. It's over $1 million a year, just maintaining his athleticism, staying in shape, trying to prevent injuries. So if anyone's going to be able to pull off, a season-long record, it's going to be LeBron. So I think it's going to come down to when he wants to call it, watching The Last Dance, Michael Jordan probably had a couple seasons left in him instead of taking that second retirement. But when the Bulls management decided to kind of take the team in a different direction, he decided to just retire, even though he wasn't out of his prime. And who knows if LeBron will do something similar, if he's just going to continue playing no matter what shape he's in or what role he has to take on. Because by the looks of it, he looks like he could play when he's 43, like I think Tom Brady is now.
Yeah. Fun fact, me and Tom Brady have the same birthday. I don't know. I always remember that.
Cool.
Has there ever been a father-son duo in the NBA at the same time?
That is a good question. I know there's a lot of father-son NBA duos, Del Curry and Seth and Steph Curry. That's one of the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. But I don't know if any have played at the same time. And part of it is because of that that longevity. Like people who have kids that are old enough to be in the NBA usually aren't in good enough shape to continue playing in the NBA. Let's look at these. I've got a list of second generation NBA players. See if any of these names.
No one's ever done it. Yeah, no one's ever done it.
Me to it.
Yep.
This is a long list, though. There are a lot of father-son duos.
Really?
From the NBA. Yeah, you've got Manute Bol, the tallest man to ever play in the NBA, and his son Bol Bol, who is a rookie for the Denver Nuggets. Del Curry, like I mentioned. Let's see who else here is famous. There's, I guess, a Patrick Ewing Jr. who's been in the NBA at some point. Tim Hardaway and Tim Hardaway Jr. That's a famous star. And some of these, I don't think I knew they played in the NBA. Like Al Horford's dad apparently played in the NBA. Larry Nance and Larry Nance Jr. Gary Payton II, I think I remember seeing him. Glenn Rice Jr. Doc Rivers, before he was a coach, was an NBA point guard. So Doc in Austin. If people don't remember Arvydas Sabonis, I would recommend looking him up. He is the father of first-time All-Star Domantas Sabonis of the Indiana Pacers. Klay Thompson's, I thought it was his uncle, but I guess it was his dad, Michael, was in the NBA.
Wow. I'm gonna really have to look at like all of that. I had no idea. I knew like Doc Rivers and all, but I had no idea.
There's a lot. I didn't even read half of them. I'm just on Wikipedia because that's what first came up. But I mean, if you have part of it, people will say it's just genetics, but there's so many clips of Steph Curry as a child sitting courtside to his dad's NBA games and just being around that kind of talent from an early age and being able to watch them and be with them and learn from them. That's got to be the huge advantage.
Yeah. And they do get, like Austin Rivers, before everybody went into the pool, he grew up playing at that basketball court. So he was, saying I do have the home court advantage because I've been here. But like they did get, I guess, more opportunities to learn. But I just think that that's awesome. Like that's very cool.
It's super cool. I think I didn't see him, but I think Kevin Love is another guy whose dad played in the NBA. And that'd be a cool segment to do later. We can kind of compare some, because you've got some duos like Tim Hardaway and Larry Nance. They were, all-stars in their prime, super good players. And their sons are solid. Larry Nance Jr. and Tim Hardaway Jr. are solid, but neither of them have any all-star appearances. And then on the flip side, you have Del Curry, who is a solid role player. He was ahead of his time with three-point shooting. And then, I don't think he made an all-star game as a player. And then, his son, Steph, is the first unanimous MVP in history.
And he also has Seth, too. Seth Curry.
And I had to go out and say Seth Curry is an underrated player. I think people kind of look down on him because he's not I believe Steph's his older brother. He's not two-time MVP, three-time champion Steph Curry. But Seth is a really good role player, and he is as good of a shooter as the rest of them.
That's a good one for underrated players. Back when we asked that question, we didn't do a question today.
Well, we didn't talk about the question of the week last week. Me and my friend Sean kind of got carried away and lost track of time. So we can just double down. The question of last week, it was about where would you rank LeBron James all time? And the reason that was the question, and I know that you saltily will put him somewhere. The reason I wanted to ask that is because people are going to have to do some reevaluating if he wins his fourth championship with this Lakers team. There's already people trying to discredit him, which I don't think is fair. But we talked about how this bubble championship is going to be one of the most difficult titles that anyone has had to win. And LeBron's going to do it. And so with that 4th championship and now being 4 for 6 instead of 3 for 6 in the finals, is that going to sway more people into having him number 1 all time?
He's still my number 2. I don't think that I'll ever be at a point where I'm like, you know what, LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan. I don't think I'll ever get there, but I guess we could see what other people have to say.
Yeah, if anyone has any comments, if you want to add a little bit more, you can put your top 3. 3rd behind Jordan and Kobe. So I was about to say, I think the general consensus of people who know NBA basketball have Michael Jordan and LeBron James in their top 3. Those 2, I'm expecting both of them to be in almost everybody's top 3, unless they have some hatred for one of them that is just beyond rational. So like Elizabeth and I, neither of us are big LeBron fans, but I cannot rationalize having him outside of the top 3. And personally, I have him as 2nd behind Jordan as well. But his resume is so stacked, love him or hate him, that just if you took off his name and just looked at numbers and records, I'd have no reason to not have him at number 2.
Right.
I, off the top of my head, I don't know who I'd say is number 3 because there's a lot of competing players in my mind. I think mostly what people are going to start debating is if LeBron is going to be able to make the jump to number 1 in people who are more on the fence between the Jordan and LeBron debate.
I guess when he has 6 championships, then I'll look at it again. But until then, nope, not going to. We actually we got a couple other things we need to dive into.
Let's do it.
I wanted to talk about the free agency.
Okay.
They're saying we still don't really know when it's going to start, when it's going to end. We don't know the cap space. They said perhaps it would be November 18th, but nothing is set in stone right now. For a while, they were saying October 15th, but then we haven't heard anything.
Yeah, because of the COVID stuff, they pushed it back. And then I do remember them saying something about November. It was originally scheduled to kick off October 18th, and then they've pushed it back. So it'll be weird. And then you make a good point about the cap space because due to COVID and even with the bubble restarting, NBA teams have lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
So they're thinking about lowering cap space, kind of making it so teams can regain some of that revenue without spending it all on their players. We'll see what kind of decision they make. I think they picked, I mean, I guess they didn't pick it. They're just kind of rolling with the punches because of COVID. But this 2020 free agency list is not that great.
Like, I thought it was because earlier when I was researching, I accidentally typed in 2021. That's going to be a big year. But 2020 is not as big as last year. It's there's some decent names on it, but I mean, number 1 name is of course going to be Anthony Davis, and I think that is all going to depend on what happens in these next few games. You know, if they win a championship, I don't think there's any way he's leaving.
Right.
But if Miami comes back and surprises everyone, I don't know. You know?
Yeah.
He'd pretty much be able to go to any team that he wanted to after making it this far into playoffs and proving himself, you know? He could probably get a decent deal somewhere else. So I don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, any team with the cap space will want Anthony Davis, but he has a player option, which I see as valuable for 2 reasons. It means he can become a free agent next year if he wants to wait it out. And also he's, you know, the Lakers are poised to make a title run, and I don't see why he wouldn't want to try and run it back after winning his first championship.
Right.
So I would guess that he's going to opt into that player option, which means he doesn't become a free agent technically until next season. And he might, depending on how they work out financial things, if he opts into that player option, that means he gets the same contract as he has currently.
Mm-hmm.
And these free agents, they might not be able to make as much money because of the smaller cap space that they might be putting on. So he's like, well, even if I did re-sign with somewhere, I'm going to be making less money. So why don't I just
That's
wait
true.
and see if the league makes a rebound? They put the cap space back at normal, and I can make a normal max contract.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say Anthony Davis is off the table. This list I have the second, I guess you would say, highest rated free agent would be Brandon Ingram of the New Orleans Pelicans. Is a restricted free agent, which Hunter Mighty gang, brother. Sean was on the show last week. He did awesome. So
You'll have to join us again sometime.
He would love to. So we'll talk about that later. Get some things going. But back to the restricted free agent. If I'm understanding that correctly, means that he can field offers from other teams, but the Pelicans can match. So let's say the Atlanta Hawks, I know, have had like $1 billion of cap space forever because they just have like no players worth paying except for like Trae Young, who's still on his rookie contract. If they offer Brandon Ingram a max contract, the Pelicans can match it and pay him what they offered and keep him.
Okay.
But if it's too much, if they're like, oh, we can't afford that, or we don't want to commit to that, then he'd go to the Hawks. Brandon Ingram, he's young and he made a huge jump. It'll be interesting to see what kind of teams make an offer for him and how much the Pelicans are willing to pay to keep him. What is this gang? I have a fan club, apparently.
I think we got you in trouble with your wife.
Yeah, my wife asking what the gang is.
Well, you know, the Hawks really need to. I don't know how great Brandon Ingram is with defense, but that's really what they need to be looking for. They've got Trae Young, like you said, and I mean, offensively, he was right up there with Luka for a while. Mm-hmm. So they really need to be looking for a defensive player, but they do have all the cap space in the world. Like, it's limitless, basically. And other than, like you said, Trae Young's, he's locked in, so they've got just pieces to move all over the place. So
right.
It'll be good to see what they do.
I would love to see Atlanta make some moves, partially because I'm a huge Trae Young fan. I think he has a great attitude, a great work ethic, and he's just so fun for me to watch play because he's got that 3-point range that some people will gripe about, but he's also such a fantastic playmaker. He was top 5 in both points and assists in the NBA in his second season, which is just remarkable. Yeah, Cat's joining in. So looking at this list, it's got just what I found here online. There's a top 10 list of the free agents. So if I'm the Hawks, you make a good point about the defense because they're kind of known of being just a Trae Young-led offense with no defense. They have Clint Capella, which I think will help.
Oh, I forgot all about Clint. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's going to be one of the premier shot-blocking, rebounding centers if he's fully healthy. So that will definitely help. And then looking at this list, I don't think it would be bad if they chased after Montrezl Harrell and Fred VanVleet, our 2 unrestricted free agents who will probably be looking for their first big payday. These are both key contributors to 2 very good playoff teams, but neither of them really have gotten a contract that matches their value. And there's not really a lot of big names here. Collective group of pals that love and support Hunter. Appreciate you guys. But so if the Hawks don't want to wait until the 2021 free agency, or they don't think they're going to get anyone, maybe try to get Montrezl Harrell, who he's not really a great rebounder, but he had some great defensive stats this season. And then Fred VanVleet, he did a pretty good job on the perimeter. He's at least a better defender than Trae Young and can kind of take some of that ball handling and playmaking pressure off of him. I think they would be, and you don't have to sign either of them to like a supermax all-star contract. Right. So they might be able to afford both of them and then maybe shed some salary to get a max guy next year, and they'd be in one of the top playoff spots in 2021, I'd imagine.
Now, I saw earlier when I was looking at this, is Kemba Walker a free agent?
Kemba Walker?
I saw his name on a list, and then I was like, yeah, I don't.
Because
He just signed a 4-year deal.
This is his first.
He just signed a new deal?
Yeah, he's on year 1 of 4.
Say that again?
He's on year 1 of 4.
Well, Google, when you search it, they give you a list of names right there, and I wrote down Kemba Walker, and I was like, man.
There's no way they would give him an option after 1 year.
So Boston only might lose Gordon Hayward then. That's their main. Well, no, they have to.
Yeah, so Gordon Hayward, he has a player option, which I wouldn't be surprised if he took, because right now he's extremely overpaid because he got a big contract coming off of some really great Utah years and then had a very unfortunate and horrible injury, and he just hasn't been the same since. So I wouldn't be surprised if he opted back in. And Kemba Walker is a free agent in 2024. So he's not going anywhere anytime soon. This was his first season in Boston. The only reason he's going to be leaving Boston anytime soon is if he's traded, which I don't think is that far off of a possibility if the Celtics want to do something more with Tatum and Brown and maybe getting him some more depth. I think I talked about this with Sean last week. That a Tatum and Brown with Marcus Smart as the point guard instead of Kemba Walker, that's a really solid trio. And if you ship Kemba Walker off for like a good center, because as great as Daniel Tice is, I don't think he's a championship caliber starting center.
He's also a free agent.
He is a free agent. I only have a top 10 list here, apparently.
Daniel Tice and their backup, Enes Kanter, are both free agents.
Now Kanter hardly got any playoff minutes.
Kanter has the playoff. Kanter has a player option. There we go. That was.
Yeah, and I'm wrong. It has them separated into 2020 and 2021. So he's actually a 2021. He has a. I guess it doesn't say if he's restricted or unrestricted or what.
Gotcha. Some other interesting names here. As Jake hops
I think we got a lot of feedback coming from you on your end, Hunter.
Say that again.
It sounds like we have a lot of feedback coming from you.
Yeah. Sorry. Let me see what I can do here.
Okay, so I guess let's see. Who else do I have on this list? Okay, I'll talk about the Rockets. The Rockets actually have quite a few people coming up. Eric Gordon, who I think that they're probably going to use in a trade. I don't know what they'll be trading for exactly, probably a center. But I think Eric Gordon's going to be the first one that they put on that list to go. And Jeff Green, Austin Rivers, actually a bunch of Rockets. When I looked at the list the other day, there was a lot more than I knew about. We're talking about they actually oh, whoop.
That was even worse.
Was it? And then in the next year, PJ Tucker and Ben McLemore. So they're in 2021. But this year it's Austin Rivers, Tyson Chandler, Thabo Cephalosha, I can't say his name.
Thabo Cephalosha.
Yeah, Bruno Caboclo, DeMar Carroll, Jeff Green. Like there's a bunch on the Rockets. So I guess, I'm sure that they'll try and keep their starting four, but I do think Eric Gordon might be up for a trade. So
I was getting some things figured out on my end. My computer camera decided to work. So
Oh.
here we are. No more feedback. So is Eric Gordon not a free agent this upcoming season?
He came up on a list as a free agent, but now he's not showing up on the second list. I don't know what list I looked at earlier, but
Yeah, because if I'm the Rockets, I would trade him, because even though he had kind of a rough season, he definitely still has value to a lot of teams, because he does have a good skill set. And, you can pitch, well, as our third scoring option, he had a 50-point game when he was the lone man on the court against the Utah Jazz, a good defensive team. What's that?
So this one's interesting. We have the current contract runs up at the end of this season, but Eric Gordon has already signed a 4-year extension using the bird rights. It was a 4-year, $75 million deal, and he is not a free agent until 2024.
Okay.
Well, that's good. No.
It's kind of a smart move for anyone who doesn't know what the bird rights are. I think it's named after Larry Bird, but I'd have to look into it. But basically, it means that you can re-sign players over the hard cap. So, like, the cap is the maximum amount that you can spend on player contracts, and that's supposed to even out the competition between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Memphis Grizzlies, because people would rather play for the Lakers than play for the Grizzlies. So they have the same amount of money to spend, but the bird rights are for certain players, and I don't really remember how they qualify to have bird rights. I think you get bird rights on players you drafted, but I don't think they drafted Eric Gordon. And so, like, if they're maxed out and they can't afford any more, if he has bird rights, they can sign him on top of that. And I think there's a tax penalty, but it's basically just like a little loophole for them to spend more than you're technically supposed to.
Well, that's neat. I never knew that at all.
I'll have to do a little more bird right research to make sure I didn't butcher that, but I think that's the general.
That's what I'm here for. So looking it up right now, a player qualifies for the bird rights, which is named after Larry Bird. You were correct. If he changes teams via trade under the following circumstances, he finishes a third season with a team after having only signed for a partial season with the club in the first year, or he signed for a full season in year 1 or 2, but the team waived him. He cleared waivers and didn't sign with another team before re-signing with the clubs remaining under the contract through a third season. You can reset your bird rights from changing teams via free agency if he's waived and not claimed on waivers, and if his rights are renounced by his team. And then it's an expansion draft. So that's the bird rights in a nutshell.
Okay. I'm still here.
Okay.
The camera went away again, but to avoid the feedback, I guess I'll just be this ominous blob that vibrates every time I speak.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Executive of the year. Oh, it's just me. That's a very big picture.
We lost them.
I'd rather
We just lost them.
Oh, okay.
We had the blob, but we lost him. His devices stopped connecting.
Okay.
Hey, I try my best.
I love that you just popped back in.
Yeah. I think I went away because I was clicking on things trying to get my camera back.
This is a wild episode, guys.
It is. This is hey, at least we're all here together though.
It's always me. I'm planning on buying a new computer. Hopefully that fixes all my problems.
Okay, so tell me what you know about the executive of the year.
Okay, so executive of the year, and let me pull up the name. He's from the Los Angeles Clippers, but I don't really remember. Say that again?
Lawrence Frank.
Lawrence Frank. That sounds right. Lawrence
Versus-
Frank. Lawrence Frank. All right. So Lawrence Frank of the Los Angeles Clippers. He won the Executive of the Year. Second place was Sam Presti of my Oklahoma City Thunder. So a couple reasons why this kind of sticks out to me, not just because I'm an Oklahoma City fan. It's just interesting. I believe that this is supposed to be a regular season award, so you can't be like, oh, well, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard lost in the playoffs to the Denver Nuggets after leading 3-1. How can you give the executive of the year to the Clippers? If you look at what he did this offseason, he signed the last finals MVP, Kawhi Leonard, made a trade for the guy who was third place in MVP voting and second place in Defensive of the Year voting for last year, Paul George, and then made some really good depth signings and has kept 2 6-man of the year candidates on the team. So win or lose, the executive did a great job building this team. And
that's what they base it off of, is like basically like the moves that they made during the year
Mm-hmm.
to build the team.
Yeah. So what they were able to accomplish during the season and during the offseason, which is why Sam Presti got second. The reason that's interesting is people are giving Presti a lot of praise because he was in a tough situation where you had Russell Westbrook and Paul George, 2 very good players who weren't delivering in the playoffs, who were both on big contracts, and he managed to trade them both instead of losing them in free agency for a ton of picks. I think the Thunder have like 15 first-round picks now from the trades.
Rockets.
Yeah, a lot from the Rockets. They got some from the Clippers, and they have some from Miami, I believe, as part of that Paul George trade. And so it makes sense that he got second. And people might be wondering, well, the Thunder made the playoffs, made 2 huge trades that set him up for the future. How could he not have won? And what I am kind of nervous about as a Thunder fan, we have 15 draft picks. Now we have to use them right. You know, there's 2 ways we could use them. We can either draft right, which the Thunder have done pretty well with. They've made some really good. They drafted Kevin Durant, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. So they know how to pick good guys. But what happens if we sit on them for too long and maybe we just end up using them on really weak draft classes? What if we trade them for players who get injured or bust? And I think Sam Presti needs to deliver on all those picks that he traded for so that he can win Executive of the Year in a season where he does something with those picks.
Right. And so I definitely think that Sam Presti made bigger moves for sure. I mean, like, oh, my cat's back. Oh, this has been quite the show.
This is
my
just
fat cat. She's
it's just entertainment at its finest.
Yeah, I don't even remember my train of thought. That's cool for Lawrence Frank. I don't know. I did want to talk about the coaches. We've touched on it a couple times in the past few shows, but there are still currently 5 teams, I think, without coaches. And just so that we stay updated on that, I'm not if something's changed in the past couple days, I don't know about it. But the Rockets, the Pacers, the Pelicans, the Thunder, and the Clippers are currently still looking for coaches. So there's going to be a lot of news coming out, and I think once we get towards the next season, once everything's starting back up.
Right.
Yeah, this cat. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I agree. Some teams are, really trying to get coaches fast. For example, the last coach to be hired was Doc Rivers, got hired by the Philadelphia 76ers, like a day after he was let go by the Clippers. Like, it was super fast.
Yeah.
And I think the reason behind that is because Philly, and I talked about this with Sean last week, of all those teams, besides the Rockets, Philadelphia is the only one that has any real title aspirations.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though they've really struggled and they're not really gelling with their team identity perhaps as well as you would like, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are incredible. And if you build a good team around those two guys, you've got a very good chance at making the Eastern Conference Finals and maybe a championship. And then the Rockets are the other team. And then everyone else, it's kind of like, we joined someone who's kind of rebuilding, or, the Pacers, they're just kind of there, and they might lose Victor Oladipo, which means they're going to be even worse.
He's a free agent, right?
If he's not, I think he might be next in 2021.
I confused myself so bad by looking up the wrong list earlier.
Yeah, I believe it's 2021, but there's been some comments about him wanting to leave and possibly getting a trade this year. So 1 year before he actually becomes a free agent, he might be trying to move somewhere.
Oh, I had some fun Rockets news, and I don't even think that most people know who this is, but Gerald Green has been training at the Rockets facility, and I'm super pumped about it because he's my favorite Rocket, or he was. He started the season last year. It was preseason, and he broke his ankle, I think. And then he had a player option, and since he wasn't going to get to play the whole season, in order for them to make space to make that Westbrook deal, he got traded to the Nuggets, and they ended up waiving him. But there was talk that he might be coming back. So I'm super excited about that. I have his jersey and everything. He's the only non-Harden jersey that I have. Except I do have one Charles Barkley, but it's my old school jersey.
Right.
But other than that, all of my jerseys are Harden jerseys. He's my favorite. So I'm hoping he comes back.
Yeah, I remember Gerald Green, and he's not like a player that sticks out anymore. He's a veteran. He's kind of just a 3-and-D guy. He was well known for being one of the best dunkers in the league a couple of years back. He had an amazing dunk contest against Dwight Howard in the earlier 2000s.
There was one where he blew out a cupcake that had a candle that was lit, and he had it sitting up on the basket and dunked and blew out the candle. It was amazing. That
is one of my favorite dunks of all time, and we'll have to probably, if they have an all-star weekend, we'll talk about some dunk contest moments. And that is, I had a ranking at one point. I don't remember what it was, but it's rivaling my favorite dunk I've ever seen in my life, because it was so creative in a humorous way, but also a super impressive way, because who jumps high enough to be able to blow out a cupcake sitting on the rim and be in the air for enough time to also dunk the basketball after that?
I think the reason I like him so much is because he is all about Houston. He's got an I-45 tattoo. He was raised here. I think he's got Oilers tattoo. That he loves Houston. And
do you know where he's from?
Houston.
He's from Houston.
Yeah.
Okay, that would explain it. I do remember he did this when he played for the Celtics as well. Before he was traded to the Rockets, I believe he was in Boston, and he braided his hair in the shape of a clover for the Celtics.
He does the R.
Exactly, yeah. He did the Rockets R. Exactly. That exact one. He braided it into his hair, which I thought was super cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. I just love him. He's got a great spirit, and I hope, even if we don't get him back, I hope he goes to a team and gets to actually play. I mean, he'll come off the bench for sure. But another fun fact about him, he's actually Danny Green's cousin.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah. I think they're first cousins, actually.
Huh.
Fun facts.
Interesting. Yeah, he's kind of like a J.R. Smith without the shenanigans kind of player. Athletic, veteran 3-point shooting guard. So I think anyone would find value from him on their team in a league that values the 3-point shot so much.
Oh, for
So
sure.
it'll be interesting to hopefully he's recovering well, and whether he's in Houston or not, I'd love to see him on an NBA team next season.
Okay, what else do we got?
We've got 3 minutes left. So, Jake, if we got any comments about the LeBron James GOAT conversation, anyone who's got their player.
It was a dull night for comments.
Yeah, that's okay. Just wondering. And let's see what.
My dad is sending me the score right now because this is completely not basketball related, but the Houston Cougars are playing their first college football game tonight. They've got like 4 games be canceled already because of other teams contracting COVID and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited. They just took the lead. I haven't watched a game in a long time, so.
Yeah, when I stepped in, you guys were talking about hopefully, we'll see how quickly things can get back to normal in the sports world. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys talked about this. Did you talk about the Miami Heat next season? That's kind of the last point I have.
We did not.
Okay, yeah, just for these last 2 minutes, I had a question is, can the Miami Heat make the finals again next year?
I think they can. Finals, I don't know. I think that a big advantage for them this year was that they did it so quietly. Nobody was really paying attention to the Heat, Mm-hmm. So it's not like the team that, of course you prepare for before a game and everything, but nobody was preparing like they would prepare for the Lakers, Right. So I think that kind of worked towards their advantage. I definitely think we'll see them in playoffs for sure. I just don't know if it'll be finals.
Definitely. I think it comes down to which team gets better in the off season. And if we talk about way too early Eastern Conference power rankings, I think it's going to come down to the Bucks, the Celtics, and the Heat. Raptors, I'm not so sure about because
they could lose everybody, right?
They could lose Serge Ibaka. They could lose Fred VanVleet. Kyle Lowry is going to just be 1 year older. He's on his game is still very good, but he's not like a guy that you can expect to make a jump in the next season.
I think, don't quote me on this, but I think next season he is also a free agent.
Kyle Lowry?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I'd be interested to see what he does. And then Marc Gasol, he doesn't put up big numbers anymore, but he was a great defensive presence for him. He's going to play next season in Spain. I don't know if you heard that.
Oh, I did. That came out of nowhere.
Yeah, he decided he's going to go play for Barcelona, not the Lionel Messi soccer team, but the Barcelona basketball team. So they're going to be missing him too. So I think it's going to come down to those 3 teams. So it's going to be, is Giannis still an MVP caliber guy? And will they get him, I guess, more help if that's what he needs? Do the Celtics make upgrades? And do the Miami Heat get like a Victor Oladipo or another player? Do their rookies get better? I think whichever of those 3 teams makes the most improvements is probably going to be the finals favorite from the East.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Definitely agree. We are out of time. We actually went over today. That's interesting. We usually get it right at the right time. But next week we will be, more put together. This is our first night back, I guess.
Yeah, well, you know me, I always have some exciting thing going on that'll be very memorable. But tune in next Thursday. And then the Cats, All right, so next Thursday, NBA basketball talk, the finals will probably be over. So we'll be talking about that, and we'll start diving into off-season stuff. We'll see you all later.
Bye, guys.